Welcome to Scottish Watches podcast. We have got Jody from Just One More Watch with us. A guy that I've met once. Can you believe that? Once in my entirety of running the Scottish Watches podcast. 5.5 years, 560 plus episodes, and I've met this gentleman only the one time when he came to Scotland, but we were going to talk about that later on. We're going to talk about Erebus, we're going to talk about the origin, we're going to talk about lots of things, including a brand new range of watches. Jody doesn't sit still. He doesn't shit still. You know, he does things very quickly. He gets off the throne immediately when he is done, and he's on to the next. And his next is literally, I think it launched a couple of days ago by the time you hear this, although as we record, it will be launching tomorrow. So it's my duty, I suppose, to say welcome back to the Scottish Watches podcast, Jody Musgrove. How are you doing?
Ricky, thank you very much. I'm doing very well. It's nice to see you, even though the last time we saw each other, we were actually in the same room, as you say, for the first time in 5 years. I think I must have done podcasts with you for 5 years. I think this is the fifth or maybe even the sixth podcast, but we only managed to catch up in the flesh, IRL, once, and that was last year. But it was great to see you then, and it's great to see you now, Ricky, as always. Even if you look sick, you still look handsome.
Why, thank you very much. The check is in the post. But we should probably do that thing where we tell people to check the show notes. If you're listening in audio, it will be in your podcast player. In there you'll find pictures, tech spec, links to all the things we're going to talk about. And there's going to be a plentiful supply of watch chat today. If you're watching this on YouTube, that link will be in the description. You can click that, takes you to the same place. And we should probably do the wrist check thing, but we're going to keep that because I have a feeling I know what's coming. So we're going to get straight into how is Jody? What has Jody been up to since the launch of his premier watch? How did it go?
It went well. I saw you in October last year in Scotland when I was on a little sort of Euro trip, my first Euro trip in 5 years. And we actually launched the first model Erebus, about 3 days before I got on the plane. So I had kind of done the setup and then bailed and left my business partner to do all the back end stuff for a couple of weeks when I came over to see you. But it was great. It was really, really good. Exceeded both of our expectations in terms of sales. I tend to be this pessimist because I'm Scottish, and that's kind of what we tend to be.
I will jump in and say he ain't lying. He was giving me the tour of his brand new studio, and I must say, as somebody who gets rather anally retentive about lights and audio and stuff like that, I was looking around, oh look, you've got pads in the ceiling to block the sound, you've got this, you've got the sheets up to stop the light spilling there. What kind of microphone is that? Is that the Sennheiser 416 or the 50? And Jody says to me,
no, Ricky, it's not. It's a cheapo Chinese one that I paid $200 for. How long have you known me, Ricky? Of course it's not a Sennheiser.
You can take the boy out of Ayrshire, but you can't take Ayrshire out of the boy. Continue, Jody. Tell us about your story.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it went well. I mean, my business partner's a Kiwi, and they don't tend to be particularly optimistic either. They say that the Scots taught the Kiwis everything they know about dourness and pessimism. So yeah, the watch did really well. We then went to China. We the two of us got a flight to Hong Kong and then one of those fast trains over to China in December to go and look at the plant, our production partner, as they say, that was assembling the watches. So that was a fascinating little trip in itself. I'd not been to a watch factory as such, so I had no idea really what to expect. But we were most impressed, and it was great to see your own watch, your own design, end to end, starting as a bag of bits and ending up as a finished watch an hour later at the other end of our production line. So that was great and really reassuring. And then we took delivery, we took receipt of all of the watches in February. All hands on deck. My mum was over here on a holiday, in inverted commas. She thought she was here on holiday. She was pressed into 2-week service. She was bagging watches and writing warranty cards for a week or two of her holiday. We then shipped them all out in February, and by and large, the response has been pretty good. But we obviously have been working on other projects in the background. We started designing the second watch long before the first one actually hit the market. So we are launching that one tomorrow morning, and I've got prototypes for watch number 3, 5 feet away at the other side of my studio room. We've signed off on prototypes for number 4. We've got number 5 we're thinking about, and we've started working with the designer on number 6. So, like you say, it never stops. It just keeps going. The train keeps moving forwards at a pace.
This is something that people don't understand because they never have to think about it. But it's a chat that we had with Chris Granger at IWC in an episode that might come out in the next couple of weeks once it's approved at headquarters. But when a watch comes out, for instance, IWC last year, it was Ingenieur. This year, it was Eternal Calendar and lots of other things. It's not just that little 12-month window that people spend designing a watch, prototyping it and getting it ready. They've got years worth of things in the background. And it's the people that do their first one and go, that was great, that was fantastic, that sold out. And then they go, oh shit, what do we do next? That's the problem. So it's good to see that you've totally eliminated that before it even was an issue.
Yeah, I think that the first one was a bit of a kind of scramble for us. This one is also not quite as comfortable as we'd like it to be, but the next one will already be in place. You know, we're getting the website photographs, the sort of press pack and stuff organised next month, and it won't be dropped for another couple of months. So yeah, we're kind of hoping to do 4 releases a year, and it would be great to have the first half of 2025 sorted before the end of 2024, you know, to have a couple in the bank, so to speak, so we're not kind of panicking. But yeah, we started thinking about this one. We started thinking about all of them, you know, middle of last year, because that's kind of what you have to do. And because the first one went quite well for us, that gives us a little bit of capital, and it gives us the encouragement to keep going. It gives us the encouragement to pay for prototypes, whereas it might have been, we might have been a bit more reluctant to do that if it hadn't gone so well, or if brands, you know, if micro brands really are working kind of hand to mouth, doing very, very small production runs, it isn't as easy to do that. It isn't as easy to sort of commission the next 2 or 3 watches and work 9, 12, 15, 18 months ahead.
So run me through the process, because we've not had the opportunity really to speak to somebody that has started a micro brand that we've known before they've started a micro brand. Yeah, there's a couple of listeners to the show that have taken the plunge, delved in, but we haven't really had that kind of back and forward. We haven't known each other as much as obviously we have with yourself.
Yeah.
So you started your watch channel. You're a watch lover, have been for decades, and you decided, okay, I'm going to do something myself. How much of what you picked up helped along the way? And the reason I ask this is because somebody could sit there on their couch watching football, soccer for our American listeners, every Saturday, but they've never really picked up any soccer skills or tips that would help on the pitch. So with your videos and working and dealing with so many different watches, did that actually help you? Or was it something else? Was it business acumen and your passion that drove you forward? Run us through the process of starting your own watch brand.
I think I realised that I wanted to start my own watch brand a couple of years into running the channel. I thought, well, this is the kind of logical thing for me to do. Making videos about other people's watches is great, and you know, I don't intend to stop this channel at all, let alone anytime soon. But I thought, well, you know, this is great, but I'd love to see my own designs in a watch one day. I'd love to start my own brand. And I started gathering emails of viewers on the basis that, hey, I'm going to start a brand one day. If you want to be the first to hear about it, give us your email address if you want to enter this competition, that type of thing. And I guess I started building contacts. I'm not your typical micro brand startup, I guess, in that sense, because I had a fairly firm idea of where I wanted the watch to be made, because I review so many watches, they come out of 3 or 4 factories. So I already had a couple of names of different factories that I wanted to get in touch with and I wanted to get prototypes from. And I also had the advantage that I had heard the name of a designer, a watch designer who designed a lot of good micros, a lot of stuff that I'd reviewed. And I thought, well, I can't draw, you know, there's no way. Some designers design their own watches, but that was, you know, beyond my capabilities. So I knew I wanted somebody else to design it, and I found a guy. So, you know, a couple of the puzzle pieces were coming together, but I also knew that I didn't really have time to do it myself, and I would need some help. I had a few offers over the years, you know, friends who say, hey, look, if you want an investment or you want a business partner, you want to go into your own watch brand, I'd love to do that with you. But none of them had been quite right. And then I met Stephen, my business partner in Erebus. I met him maybe 4 years ago through watches. I sold him a watch. He sold me a watch. You know, we met up, we became pals. And then middle of 2022, he said, hey, why don't we launch a brand together? So we really sort of started at the beginning. We started the company, you know, got the company structure in place so that if it all goes tits up, you know, we can't sue each other. You know, he's a proper businessman, and I needed that, I guess. I've got the contacts. He is just as knowledgeable about watches as I am, which is great, so it's not like I'm doing all the front end and he's doing all the back end. Every decision we've made has been a joint decision, but he's the systems and operations guy. He's the one that makes sure that the stuff actually got delivered as it should have. So he's kind of great at doing a lot of the kind of back end groundwork. So it all just came together. Mind you, it came together over the course of about a year and a half between forming the company and actually launching our first watch. You then have to get your designer, come up with a design you're happy with, then go out to prototyping. We went to 3 different factories, got 3 different sets of prototypes made from our one design. We then went back to one factory that we really liked and got a second round of prototypes. And only then, when we were happy, did we decide that we were ready to launch the watch. Then you've got to get a website, you've got to get a Shopify or whatever you're going to use and get all that in order, which isn't great. That is a real nightmare to deal with in itself. And then if you want to do PayPal, you've got to jump through various hoops there. So there's a lot of different moving parts to it. And I couldn't have done it on my own. I could have probably launched a watch, but it would have been a disaster. Whereas because I've got a business partner, because I've got Stephen, it was a success, and we can continue that success in the future. So not an easy process. Didn't take a huge amount of money though. I think there's a misconception that you got to pour, $50,000 into starting your own watch company. We didn't do that. If you go the Kickstarter route, if you go the pre-order route, we didn't use Kickstarter. We used kind of my name and reputation to get people to give us the money on trust in advance, which again is atypical. But if you go Kickstarter, you don't have a huge amount of investment capital. You need to get yourself prototypes, obviously, a design, and you need to get yourself some nice photographs and stuff to go on Kickstarter. So, it's not impossible to do, but it does take a bit of planning. And I also had the big advantage that I am my own marketing system, whereas a lot of guys just don't have that, and they're expecting miracles. They send me emails, hey, I've got this watch, I don't know what to do with it. Can you help me? And I'm like, no, I can't. I'm not the silver bullet. You need to work that out for yourself. You need to build up a base. You need to build up some interested parties before you go to market, because all of that input, all of that work you can do can all fall if you don't get the promotion and the marketing of it right, if you don't let people know about it before you launch it.
You can have the best movie, song, product, whatever it is in the world, but people don't know. They don't. It's like a YouTube video that, unless they watch the video, they don't know how good it's going to be. So it's marketing. It's getting that thing to move in the first place. Well, here's a couple of questions. We don't do any kind of preamble before the show, because with Jody, I know that he is a consummate professional, and we can just hit him with stuff as we go. He won't shit the bed. So here's a few questions for you. 1, what would you change if you could go back 2 years and talk to yourself, not 10-year-old Jody, but 60-year-old Jody from a couple of years ago? What would you go back and tell yourself that would help with the process?
Cheeky bastard. I would, that's a tough one. I would say take more risk with the design, but I think the fact that we didn't take too many risks with the design was the reason why it was a success. We did go kind of middle of the road with this one, something that wouldn't offend, that served its purpose, but wasn't particularly radical or original in some senses. So maybe I would say go a bit harder with the design. I don't know. I can't really complain, Ricky. We did quite well. I'm happy with it.
Or did anything up? Did anything explode in your face? Was there something where you thought, we've got everything covered, and then there was a gotcha moment?
The only real gotcha moment was we gathered, me, my wife, and my son, Stephen, and his wife and his 2 dogs, and we gathered at a cafe with a bottle of nice vintage champagne, had some breakfast, and we were ready for the launch at 11 o'clock. I'd set the video as a premiere. We were all ready for it, all a bit nervous and all ready. 11:05, halfway through the video, Shopify shuts down on us. So our ordering system completely shat itself. There's phone calls going off. We're trying to call the web guys, trying to log in and various things. Somebody had entered, I didn't enter it, somebody had entered my date of birth wrong. They had put in the 13th rather than the 12th. And Shopify flagged it as fraud. We had missed the tiny internal memo telling us that we needed to provide my driver's license to verify all of this. And they Shopify crashed for an hour, and it was the most horrible feeling because you've spent 18 months getting ready for this moment and you're sitting there and you're ready for it and it all just falls in a heap. So maybe I would go back and tell Jody to make sure that whoever put in my date of birth got it right rather than wrong. So we're hoping, you know what, tomorrow morning we're meeting at a cafe again. There's no champagne because we're meeting at 7 a.m. this time. And we're hoping beyond all hope that Shopify doesn't shit itself, because I don't know if I could take it if it did it again, frankly.
Okay, so that wasn't really a massive gotcha moment. So that's pretty good going considering. So we should probably do that wrist check thing just now. And I'm going to go first. I'm not going to let Jody go first. I'm going to go first. And I'm going to say that I am wearing a watch that he helped promote that was a waste of both of our time.
Oh, your Spinnaker, the Braveheart.
And the reason for that...
The Braveheart.
The Braveheart, yes. Last year, I got one of our Braveheart watches sent across to Jody. This was a collaboration we did with Vishal and the team at Spinnaker. That's Spinnaker, Aviate, Nubeo. They've got a whole load of different names down there, and they do great things at great prices. And I got one of these watches sent down under to Jody to check out. He had a look at it. He promised to do a review. He did it immediately for me. But the watch launched and it sold out in 10 hours. And then Jody said, should I bother putting the video out? And I thought, you've put all the effort in, buddy. You've got the watch. Yeah, just put it out and maybe let people know that we're going to have one coming out as a follow-up, a second album. Well, that second album has been designed. It's been prototyped. We have checked it out and it will be out not in the immediate future. So don't worry, you can go and buy Jody's watch first.
Thank you. Please do.
Please do. We will have a follow-up to Braveheart within the next few months. Let's say it could be an anniversary of Braveheart's release. So you might find something this St. Andrew's Day coming from us and the guys at Spinnaker. And the feedback we had on this was phenomenal. Lots of people were very upset they couldn't get a hold of it. A lot of people with a lot of Scots ancestry and heritage, maybe who didn't bugger off to the opposite side of the globe like Jody here, they felt as if they had missed out. Well, if you felt like you'd missed out, keep that date in your diary because something cool will be coming. And it might even be a little bit more fanciful than having the saltire emblazoned across the bezel and the caseback. So that's it. Spinnaker Braveheart, the watch I am wearing today.
I was going to say, if you could go back and say to Ricky 12 months ago, what would you do differently? Perhaps you would get more than 100 of those Spinnaker Bravehearts made, because there are more people claiming Scottish ancestry in the United States than there are people in Scotland. That makes 6 million in Scotland, 6 million in the United States, and who knows how many around the rest of the world. And you got 100 Scottish watches made, Ricky. Come on. You should have got more than that. They would have sold. They were sold in much bigger numbers. Because they were really good. They were super Scottish. They had everything apart from a complimentary bagpiper.
Yeah, you did get that when you opened it. It's like the old Christmas cards you used to open and it would play Christmas music to you. That could be a good idea for the next box. I'll speak to Vishal. Yes, you're right. We should have done more, but we've done limited edition releases from as small as 25 to 2,000 in the past. And when we did 2,000, it was a very inexpensive, cheap plastic watch. We didn't want to overshoot. When we did 25 watches with one brand, they sold out fairly quickly. We did the Isotope. That took nearly a year to go through the 100. The last few were sold at British Watchmakers Day, which was like a year and a half down the road. So we didn't want to say, yeah, it's going to be a massive success. It's going to sell out instantly and we'll get 500 of them. Because we sold 100, but if only 200 people were interested, that's 300 sitting, having to be paid for, sitting in stock, eventually having to be discounted, and then people go, oh, Hodinky effect. It's the Ed Sheeran, they didn't sell out, things are on the slide. So it's always best to do as many as are required -1. But we did learn from that lesson, and the fact that these watches were super inexpensive, they came with all the tools to change stuff, they came with extra straps, the bracelet, different coloured leathers in there. With the next one, I nearly said the name of the next one. Oops. The next one that we do that comes out this St. Andrew's Day with the guys at Spinnaker, it will be more. It won't be 100, it'll probably be about 200. So you still want to get in quick. But yeah, that was the reason that we didn't just go crazy. And the problem was because it was limited to a certain number, We couldn't just then go and add an extra 100 on top and reorder, because the first guys would have been really pissed off. And I'd have been pissed off if I got one of 100 and then there was an extra 100 added on later.
Is that not called the bel canto effect?
Was that limited to 100? I'm not sure.
I think the first one was limited, and then they came out with another 2 colour versions that were limited, and then another 2 colour versions, and another 2 colour versions, and then it became, not limited. So I think so. I think so. I need to get my hands on one of them still. I haven't seen a bel canto. That's on my wish list for this year, to get my hands on one of them. I think they're now being distributed. They're being, shipped out to customers. So maybe there'll be a few more. Maybe I'll get an offer of one for review.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm pretty sure you've got a prototype Christopher Ward something or other that I nearly named there that perhaps I don't even have yet.
Are we not allowed to name it? You might be right. I might have a Christopher Ward something or other prototype I wasn't sure whether we were talking about. It's really nice, by the way. Surprisingly, not what I normally go for, but I think it's very well done.
We will have Mike France on the show because he's not been on for a long time. We've had a couple of designers, they're watchmakers, but we've not had the actual main man, the head honcho, on for a number of years actually. So he's going to be coming on soon to talk about whatever it is that Jody's talking about. I'm just been super safe and super careful these days, because when we were at Watches and Wonders, we were getting shown lots of embargoed things, and it was mentioned. One of the brands is really good. This is a shout out to Moser. They know what they're doing. They had stickers on the watches, little clear, the case back stickers, the sapphire crystal stickers that said embargo. So when we started filming or taking photos, the first picture, the first video showed which we could talk about. Other brands didn't do that. They just went, by the way, don't talk about that for 3 months. As if I can remember. So yeah, videos will probably have all kinds of embargoed shit in it. But the Christopher Ward, look forward to seeing that. And I'm looking forward to remembering to continue the wrist check that Jody tried to kind of move away.
Tried to avoid. I never answer your questions. So yeah, wrist check. Hey, before I tell you what's on my wrist, we had our new watch, which launches in about 9 hours' time, leaked today. Our web developers were checking some of it, and we were like, no, you can't go live. You have to do this behind the scenes. But for some reason, one particular colour variant escaped and was online, and a friend of mine sent me a screenshot saying, do you know that this is live on your site? So we got it taken down, but somebody has screen grabbed it, and it's now on Reddit, so I feel proper posh. That's kind of made my day. People care enough that they care. They're on the site looking for info, and they're spreading it around the Reddit micro brand subreddit. Happiness.
Did they say nice things, or did they say it was shit?
Well, I find out. I don't read it, but yeah, I'll find out tomorrow morning. So yes, oddly enough, I am wearing an Erebus, but it's not the new one, it's the old one. We only have a dozen prototypes of the new one, and they are already on their way around the world. I think one package went to Japan, 2 packages went to the UK, and 1 package is still floating around the Sydney postal system. So I am wearing my Erebus Origin today in black. I think this is a prototype as well, actually. I got left with a black prototype, so I wear this one quite a bit. So yes, oddly enough, I'm spruiking my own wares today.
Well, you were spruiking your own wares when you came across to Scotland to see us, and it was kind of surreal meeting somebody that I've spoken to so many times, and way before the Scottish Watches podcast was even a slight jiggle in my ballsack. It was cool to meet up with you, city centre of Glasgow. Simona came along, her cousin came along, Dave came along, you were there, wife was there, baby was there doing crazy shit with spaghetti.
Yeah. My wife still talks about that regularly, actually. She talks about you regularly, actually, Ricky.
Most people's wives do, funnily enough.
Most people's wives do, but not necessarily in the way you expect. She talks about what you ordered that day quite regularly, Ricky. My wife has always maintained that Scots have terrible diets. She's right. We do have terrible diets. But she says that Scots only eat food that is one of 3 particular colours. She says it's the Scottish culinary flag. Either brown, orange, or yellow, right? Basically, haggis, neeps, and tatties. So if it doesn't look like one of those 3 things, we don't eat it. And here we were in a lovely city centre, Glasgow cafe in the Merchant City, a little bit posh, one of the nicest, always been a great foodery. Plenty of different options. What did you order, Ricky, that day?
Can't remember.
You ordered a bowl of potatoes. Just a bowl of potatoes. So that was somewhere between yellow and orange. My wife couldn't believe it, and she still talks about it. So she feels vindicated and validated that she was right all along. We only eat food that is either brown, orange, or yellow.
I would actually have to agree on that one. And I am drinking the other national drink today.
Are you?
In your honour.
I couldn't see it. I wasn't sure if it was Lucozade. I wasn't sure if you were so sick that you were going to be in one of those Lucozade cans, but no, you've got the brew out. And is that one of those old school, old recipe, high sugar brews?
No, this is a limited edition. Raspberry Ripple Iron Brew Extra.
What does it say on it? Ooh. How is it?
It's actually okay, and it's limited edition, so of course I bought it. You know me, love a limited edition.
I took as much opportunity as I could to drink Iron Brew when I was back, because you can find it here, but you can't find a diet Iron Brew. And I'm sorry, I drink the diet stuff, so I was on the diet brew when I was home. It was good. It was nice. But it was great to see you. Great to meet Dave, and great to catch up. Because as you say, we've been chatting to each other since like 2017, I think. So it took us a long while. It was like 2017, 2018, Ricky. It's at least 5 years. So good to finally meet you in the flesh.
Yes, I remember it was way back. It was me going to Baselworld or SIHH, and I'd message you to say, listen, I'm going to cross as a punter to this thing before the podcast. Would you like me to send you like a video clip of stuff? And you'd said very nicely, not really my thing, but thanks for the offer. And I thought, well, people would probably like to find out about that. And then the germ was sort of created and the seedling sprouted into what became Scottish Watches. And we were just over at Watches and Wonders there. Lots of people went on the public days. You didn't go, Jody. I mean, I thought you were in the watch industry. Do you not get an invite?
Look, no, I didn't get an invite. It's a little bit far. I'm still waiting for a Swiss brand to offer me business class return flights. If they do, I'll be there next year. But we, as in Erebus, we're going to start doing some of these watch fairs as presenters. You know, we're going to take a table at some of these shows. There's one in Melbourne next month called Wristwatch Check, which is a new one organised by Grip Auto Timepieces, who are a Melbourne-based micro brand. They do kind of racing style, motoring style inspired watches. They have organised 7 or 8 other Aussie micro brands. We've got a fantastic site that has got a whole bunch of vintage cars. Check Wristwatch Check AU on Instagram for more details about tickets. And I was chatting to the partnerships manager of Worn and Wound this week, trying to get us into New York for the Wind Up Watch Fair in October. So maybe I will see you there for that one, Ricky. Do you get over the pond?
I have once. I went to whichever thing it was that Horology Forum were running. That's the guys at Dubai Watch Week. And I think they'll be doing something again this year. It won't be in the States because that's where it was the last time. So I think I will be elsewhere. But I've never been to a Wind Up. It's the one that I'd like to, because that ties in with Watch Time magazine and the event that they put on. They've got more of the higher end brands that cost a little bit more, maybe a couple of zeros at the end of the price point. But the Wind Up Watch Fair is something that is legendary to the point where everybody is trying to emulate it. A little bit like British Watchmakers Day in the UK. All the other people are trying to emulate it. So you've picked the best one to do. But we should probably talk about the elephant in the room, the thing that we're now half an hour, halfway through the podcast, and we haven't really touched upon. And that is the very difficult second album. We launched with Studio Underdog their second series. Rich came on the day of launch. We actually had to postpone the podcast by a number of hours to coincide with his launch. Don't have to worry about that because you're putting this out 2 days before people hear and see this. But the second album, what's it all about? What are the design cues? What was the methodology, the thinking behind it? And how many colourways are you going to do this time?
Ooh, too many colourways. Which of those 19 questions do you want me to answer first? It's called the Ascent. We thought that was a nice kind of reflection of where we wanted to go with this watch and as a company. You know, this one has got a high beat automatic, it's got domed sapphire, it's got applied indices, an applied logo, all what we think are small but significant forward, you know, steps forward as a brand. So we thought Ascent was a nice name to have it. The first watch, the Origin, again, it kind of named itself because it was our first watch. That was a diver, you know, decently chunky but not ridiculous, with a Seiko NH35, $299. This one's a little more expensive. It's $349, but I think proportionally, you probably get more watch for your money with the Ascent than you do with the Origin. It's really, we're not making huge margins on these at all, much to Stephen's annoyance that he keeps reminding me. But we wanted to do, I guess everybody talks about the Seiko Sarb still as the affordable sports watch, everyday GADA style watch benchmark. We wanted to do something that would have all of the things that made the Sarb great, but aimed higher. So we looked at Grand Seikos, we looked at My Citizen Chronomaster and Aquaterra, looked at Rolex, Datejust, Oyster Perpetual, Explorer, and so on. And we thought, right, let's see what makes them fantastic, and let's see how much of it we can put into a $350 watch. It looks really good. You do these designs and then they go to a factory and then they do their own renders and you're thinking, this is looking nice. But we got the prototypes in 6 or 8 weeks ago or so, and it was like, okay, this is really, really nice. So we hope it will do well. We hope that there'll be a space in people's collection for it, and we're doing so many bloody dial colors that surely, I don't have one of those, I don't have a yellow, I don't have I don't have an orange, I don't rather have a green or a purple. There's so many different dial colors that people will find something they like, I hope.
And have you stuck to the same people that helped you with the first one? Is it the same factory? Is it the same designer?
Yes, same designer, same factory, and hopefully we can keep the band together, because it was very successful the first time. It's interesting. You get a design from a designer, take it to a factory, and it changes a little bit. But the factory are the ones making the watches, oddly enough. They know how to make a watch work, so they can tell you things that the designer can't necessarily. The designer has a kind of fantasy blank page, whereas the factory, the assemblers will say, oh no, you can't do that, or we can make it slimmer, or we can make it shorter, or we're going to have to change that a little bit. So it does mutate and develop a little bit, but the same team as last time. And yeah, we're really, hopeful and excited about this one. I'm looking forward to wearing it myself as my kind of daily watch, because it's exactly the type of stuff that when I put on, I don't take off. That style of watch, just under 40, it's a 39mm. It's the size that Rolex discontinued a couple of years ago, and I don't know why they discontinued it, because I thought the 39mm Oyster was their best case size and best case shape.
Did you not say way back that you had a couple of issues with the first one? It was almost about to get released, sent to press, and then you changed something with the bracelet?
Yeah, the bracelets that we got, the original prototype bracelets didn't have enough articulation on them. So we had to kind of emergency rush a second batch of bracelets. They were really comfy, but they couldn't be sat flat in a box. And we thought, right, they're great on wrist, but if you can't put it in a watch box, how on earth are we supposed to sell these? So we got a second batch of bracelets. We actually ended up offering 2 different bracelets. We probably sold a 70-30 split on the 2 different bracelets. So we thought, why not offer 2 different bracelets this time? Yeah, so we're doing 2 different styles of bracelet with this one, 3-link and a multi-link. Multi-link's a bit dressier, and the 3-link is a little bit more tooly. So you can pick which way you want to go, depending on which dial color you go for.
Good to know. And what was the design ideas with this new watch? You have sent me only one picture, so I'm kind of shooting in the dark a little bit here myself. I'm trying to piece together what it is you've done versus the first iteration. And you'd mentioned there, it was a Seiko in the first one. This new one is a high beat. What is it you've gone for this time around?
It's a Miyota 9015, which is kind of the go-to. It's the most accessible of the non-Swiss 4 Hz automatics. So designed, I think it's been out for about 15 years now as a alternative to the 2824s and the SW200s. A lot cheaper. It's about half the price of the equivalently spec'd Swiss-made auto. And it's nice and slim. So we designed the watch around the movement, managed to get it to 11mm thick, including domed sapphire, which is pretty good for a daily. So that was one of the things we wanted to do. I love the Seiko movements. I think the Seiko movements are really all you need in a watch, but whether you need it or whether you want it, it's a different thing. And people seem to want a high beat. They want that smooth sweep there. They've probably got 25 Seikos in their collection already, so they want something a little bit different and a little bit more upscale.
Did you find any problems with the Seiko movement in the watches that you put together? I don't know if you're going to answer this question, but what is the kind of returns rate? What were the issues that you saw coming back the way from customers that had bought a watch that maybe had been donked or dropped or something like that?
I'm super picky on my channel, especially about Seikos, about misaligned bezel inserts, misaligned chapter rings, and so on. So I think people were keen to return watches or tell me that their bezel wasn't perfectly lined up. So we had a few of those, but not really many returns considering how many we sent out. A couple of Seiko problems, but I like to think I have a less than 1% failure rate on the stuff that I've reviewed with Seikos over the years. Occasionally you'll get a rotor issue with a Seiko. You get a really nasty, grindy rotor where the rotor itself has to be replaced. We've had a couple of them, but to be honest, a lot of the times people have said the watch isn't running right, it's running slow, it's running fast, it's not working at all. Okay, send it back and we'll have a look at it. We wind it up, we put it in the time grapher and it's perfect. So whether people are not quite telling the truth about their returns or whether they have a problem that we aren't able to replicate, that Seiko movement is, rock solid. It's a bit of a miracle that they can get something so good because they've been doing it for years. Obviously, the architecture's, decades and decades old, but they're super reliable. And these Miyotas in the new watch are apparently just as reliable. I've never encountered a failure personally with those. Not something you can say about the Solitas even, and not something you can say about the Seagulls that people are charging a fortune for in chrono micro brands these days.
So no little bi-compacts design coming anytime soon then?
I tell you, I would be really reluctant. Stephen and I have spoken about it. We spoke about it again today. I would be really reluctant to put a Seagull ST19 in a chronograph. I know they're popular now. There's been a real explosion. Everybody's putting them in them. But the failure rate's massive. I heard from a brand owner that it's more than 10% failure rate on these Seagulls. Every one I've had is different. There's no consistency with them. So they're again, these things are a marvel. Column wheel chronograph in a watch costing, I bought one a couple of weeks ago. Of course I did. 116 US dollars, plus a little bit of tax, free shipping, and I got a column wheel chronograph, a mechanical chronograph. But how long it lasts, I do not know. So no, we will not be doing, I think we'll either go upscale and put a Swiss chrono in there or mecha quartz. I love those mecha quartz movements. I know that people collectors don't necessarily go for them, but I think they're so much more sensible than the cheap mechanical equivalent.
I quite like them. And if you take away any kind of running seconds or running sub-seconds on them,
yeah,
it's difficult to tell because when you fire the mechanical part, it does look like a normal automatic or manual wind. So yeah, I agree on that front.
Absolutely.
But let's move the sights away from your forehead and onto the watch industry at large because it's been about nearly a year, I would say. It was probably around about June time we're recording this, just about hitting May time. What's been happening in the world of watches through your eyes, through the Jodys' eyes, because we love to check in with people that have their finger on the pulse. You get sent so many pieces of different price points. You borrow so many pieces. The latest video I saw from you was on Tudor, just after Watches and Wonders.
Tudor, yeah.
So what's kind of impressed you? What's kind of made you go, oh, not again? And who have been the losers? And I'm pretty sure I know somebody you're going to mention, but I'll let you continue.
What's been good and bad? I think, people talk about the economic downturn and everybody's struggling to put food on the table and mortgage rates are this and the cost of living is ridiculous. I don't see people spending any less money on watches though. Somehow they're finding, whether their kids are all getting skinnier and their collections are still getting bigger, I still see people watching my videos to the same extent and buying watches to the same extent as well. I think, we've talked about this every time we've spoken. Every year we talk about market saturation and how I don't think it's getting any easier to launch your own micro brand these days. I've seen really good projects. I looked at one earlier on this year called Youve watches. I thought they were fantastic. The guy had got 600 made up, 6 different colorways, 100 of each. I thought it was one of the most exciting designs and one of the most resolved first efforts that I'd seen in ages. I think he sold about 100. And I'm like, well, it must be getting harder and harder to launch your own brand, if you don't have all the advantages that I spoke about earlier on. So it's getting a bit more cutthroat out there for micros. I can definitely see that. Some of them are doing very well though. Baltic, I think, are going from strength to strength there. I saw some Reddit poll or Microbrand Watch You Seek poll the other day, which had them as the #1 micro these days. So I think they've kind of knocked Zelos off the perch in terms of mentions and references and name checks. And with good reason, they're making some really nice watches. Interesting there's a very different style between Zelos's kind of modern, in-your-face designs. Baltic are doing those slightly smaller, more refined mid-century designs. So maybe the micro market is kind of heading in that direction, maybe smaller and more vintage, which has kind of taken over the mainstream. Maybe that's heading that way in terms of micros also.
Okay, so that is some of the winners, and I do agree because I got to see some Baltics in real life over in Geneva. They had one of the pirate stands in one of the hotels that was away from the main event itself, and they seem to be following the trajectory that Ming blazed maybe a few years back, where they started quite inexpensive, but, you know, the price of Ming watches nowadays, not saying Baltic have upped their prices, but the quality, the workmanship and the design is definitely following that trend. So who have the bad boys been?
The losers? I don't know. Ricky, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to throw shade on somebody. I don't even know.
Well, what shitters have you had through?
What shitters?
What watches have you had through then that you were quite keen to review, you looked at, they looked quite good, you pulled it out of the box, and a bit like the comedy car in the circus, everything just went...
I think going on from my last point about market saturation and microbrands, I think people are looking for niches that don't exist. You know, that they're looking to create watches to fill a hole in your collection that you never knew you had, you never knew you wanted. So I've looked at some pieces. I looked at a manual wind chronograph dive watch that didn't have, it had 50 meters of water resistance. And I'm like, that's not a dive watch. This isn't the 1940s or something. What are you calling that a dive watch for? And that one didn't get over the line because I think people looked at it and was like, what actually is this? It doesn't have a clear purpose in my collection. You haven't told me why I need it. So I think there's a danger of people trying to fill holes in boxes that aren't empty in the first place.
You're not giving me much to go with here, Jody. I was expecting a barrage of information and shit brands here and people that promised you that never delivered and all the rest of it. But you've changed, Jody. You've changed.
Oh, well, I mean, I give the odd kick into the odd AliExpress watch or something that I buy that's just dreadful. Or, you know, I reviewed this Nomos copy. It was a 1-for-1 copy of a Nomos, but they put the word original on the dial, and I gave them a proper bollocking for it. I was like, put anything on the dial, but don't put original on the dial. What on earth are you thinking? And 2 days later, they posted that they had watched my review and they changed it. They'd changed it. So I had some success there. But I don't tend to mindlessly give stuff kickings these days all that often. I don't tend to do the roast all that often. Certainly with the smaller companies, you know, I'd rather not. I'd say I send stuff back. If somebody sends me a watch and I just don't like it and I don't think it's very good, I won't make a video about it. I won't kind of crush somebody's dreams. I'll send it back to them. So maybe I don't do as many savagings as I used to. Interestingly enough, though, I think it's now my second most popular video was 5 watch brands I'll never buy. And I thought that I was obviously having a bad day at the end of 2022. I'd just come back from a holiday and I think I was kind of suffering from a holiday hangover. And I knocked out this video in the course of an afternoon and it's gone on to get nearly 1 million views, which says a lot about the people who watch YouTube videos. They just want negativity and nastiness.
They just want their pound of flesh.
They just want a dog pile-on. They just want to jump in on the comment section and be like, yeah, I hate them as well. Or here are my 5 brands I'd never buy. So it obviously allowed that. It facilitated that unleashing of some negative energy. So I think I've done the world a favour.
You did. And that is the whole point that newspapers and television news shows exist. Nobody tunes in to find out that everything's okay. People tune in to find out about the despair, the destruction, the devastation. And yeah, I did enjoy those videos that you used to do back when you had a bit more testosterone running through your veins. Nowadays, you're more subdued. You know, you're a family man. You've had the child. The oxytocin levels have changed. Everything's all different. It's kumbaya in the Musgrove household. But I'm sure Jody will be back with his fisticuffs ready for action in no time at all.
No, I'm mellowing. I must be mellowing with age. I'm getting less angry. I'm not the angry young man that I used to be. I am just a kind of mildly upset middle-aged man these days. So yeah, maybe I need to find a bit of that, bit of the mongrel, and do a few more Sunday roasts this year.
Well, I will look forward to them, as will our audience, because there's a good alignment with the people that listen and watch us as to the people that enjoy your content. Every time you're on, the comments that we get, everybody loves a bit of Jody in their life. And before we let you go, we should probably ask, what is in the future? We are literally hours away from launch. By the time you hear and see this, it will be a distant memory, 48 hours in the past. What are you expecting? What have you found has been the reaction within your industry, the media landscape with watches? Have you had help? Because you've obviously helped us when we've done Braveheart. We've talked about Erebus a number of times on the show. But do you get help from the big boys? Do Hodinkee talk about your releases? Fratello, Monochrome, Watch Time, any of those guys take any kind of interest?
No, because you got to pay those people, and I haven't paid them yet. Can I say that?
If you like.
I probably shouldn't say that. No exposure in those kind of big online sites as yet. Time and Tide, I've got a kind of connection with Andrew McCutcheon. We've had a few chats. So I sent an Origin over to him, and they're going to do a write-up on that. But I think maybe that's the next stage for us. As we mature and grow as a brand, we need to look beyond YouTube. We need to look at the watch fairs. So maybe that's something I've got planned for the next 12 months or so. Get out and about, press the flesh, meet some people, and meet some other microbrand owners. Some microbrand owners have been fantastic. You know, Kyle from Stratton, I know, is a kind of friend of Scottish Watches. He's a really nice guy.
Well, he used to be, but he stopped replying to messages, promised to send watches for review over the past 2 or 3 years, and zero has ever turned up.
Kyle, sort yourself out. Send Ricky a watch. I'll send him an email now, and he'll do it, Ricky. Sergio Dorenzo from Dorenzo Watches. You know, I got a lot of time for Sergio. And I think that feeling's mutual. He really helped us with some tweaks for the Origin, so I kind of run the designs past him. He's got a great eye. He designs all his own stuff himself, so he brings a new perspective. The guys at Formex have offered help on more than one occasion. They're really nice guys. I know it's a kind of small team there. Raphael and Marcus, they both said anything they can do to help. And, you know, they obviously have expertise in clasps and these deployants and quick release stuff, so they offered the help there. But no, and, you know, oddly enough, the other microbrand owners have not exactly been, you know, welcoming us into the fold with open arms, because I guess we're just another name on the block and another option for people to buy. So I'm really looking forward to going to these watch fairs. I'm hoping to catch up with Mark from Long Island Watches, who seems like one of the nicest men in the world, if we do get to that New York fair. And there'll be a raft of other microbrand owners that I've had various dealings with, mostly positive dealings with in the past. So it'll be great to see some people, you know, as Jody from Just One More Watch, but also as Jody from Erebus Watches, now that I've got kind of two different things that I have to balance on some occasions anyway.
Well, you did mention a couple of really good guys in there. The folks at Formex, we can't say enough good things about them because they've been massive supporters of Scottish Watches since day one, just like yourself. And we may have something coming out in the next couple of months with them.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, stay tuned for that one. But before we finish up, it's time to talk about one of my favourite things, and that is YouTubing, because I've been trying to learn for nearly a year how to do this properly. I bought lights, I bought microphones, I bought all kinds of jazz, and then you decide that you were going to upgrade your studio. So tell us what you've done.
Oh, well, I moved house. My wife and I finally bought a house, and we moved here in the end of January. We looked for 6 months. We were out every Saturday morning. We looked all over the place. Sydney's, I mean, the house prices here are obscene. Of all the houses we looked at, there were 2 that had an external studio space, something that one was a gym, one was an office, both of which I could turn into a studio. So we found this house a little bit further out, but with enough bedrooms for the kids we do not yet have, and this outside studio for me that was the previous owner's office. He was a surveyor and he used to meet his clients in here. It's a bit of a garden shed office combination. I can still smell the mulch in the room next door. But I had a blank canvas, 3 meters by 5 meters, decent ceiling height. Do what you like, Jody. This is your space. You can drill holes in the walls. You can rip up the carpets. You can do whatever you want. I got it wrong. I painted it dark blue, and I had several Scottish friends tell me that it looked like I was making videos in the Ibrox trophy room. And I had a lot of negative comments about it as well. Claustrophobic, it's too dark, it's this, that, and the other. So, with the help of Peter Kotza, who is a Melbourne YouTuber, a good friend who's given me a lot of good advice, he recommended a supply store. They're called Dragon Image. They're in North Sydney, and they sell lights, equipment, cameras, and they've got a guy there who's a YouTube studio specialist. He does these big 500,000 installs for mega churches and for everything else. I paid him the consulting fee, and he came to my tiny little pokey studio, told me what was right, what was wrong, had a look at the equipment I had, drew up some 3D models, and came back a week later with a big list of stuff in the back of a van and a large bill at the end of the day. But he set it up for me. I mean, the soundproofing pads and some of it, a lot of the gear I already had, but there was a large bill last month. But I am so much happier. So I'd never had that help before. I'd always done everything myself. And sometimes it pays to pay somebody else to do it for you who is far more experienced in this than I am. So I've got the dream studio. I've got the dream. No watches in the house, and I've got this space all to myself, and it's fantastic. I love it. It's so much easier for me to work in than the last one was. I think another couple of poles here and there, and I'll be tripod free, which is just amazing. So yeah, I spent a bit of money. It's probably the most money I've spent in the last couple of years, though, since I did a big camera upgrade. So I don't mind spending money if it's for the channel, and it's a business expense anyway. So the government pays. I pay less tax if I buy stuff in some ways. So that's how you do it. You pay somebody who knows more than you to tell you what to do.
So there we go, a perfect way to end the show with a bit of life and business advice from Jody. And if somebody's just starting out on YouTube, that is not the way to go. The first way to go that I've learned is just to do it. Just do it.
Yes.
You will fail, you will look terrible, you will sound crap, you will look the wrong way into different cameras. It will not work, but you'll learn. First time you picked up a pencil or a crayon when you were a kid, you didn't do the Mona Lisa. You have to start somewhere. And it's been cool to see the progression, the stages, the changes that you've done with your channel, what we've tried to do over the last year. When we were at Watches and Wonders, we were running around with different cameras, doing all kinds of stuff. And the problem I had when I came back was I had 5 different cameras with different memory cards over 4 or 5 days to then try and go through. That was a pain in the arse. Not looking forward to doing that again, but what you're doing, the way you've got things set up, when you came in and you gave me the tour, I thought, this is the way to do it. No tripods, poles on the ceiling, lots of things where you can actually maneuver around without falling over yourself. And then you just went in, you sat down, the microphone's already pointing at you, you hit the record button, away you go. Making it, not effortless, that's the wrong word, but making it a bit of a cinch to just go in, record, do your work, get out, and you're done.
Yeah, much easier. I'm already seeing that that's easier. I'm still kind of hand to mouth. I make 3 videos a week, and I have got 0 videos in the bank. I do not have next week's video sorted. I start on Monday for Wednesday's video. So hopefully now this will calm me down a bit, and I can start to work 1 week, 2 weeks ahead. I've never been more than about 5 videos ahead anyway. I think you kind of lose the immediacy and the relevance in some ways if you're talking about something, that you recorded a month ago. But it would be great to get a bit ahead of it. And yeah, this has been a big step. But I only just dumped the soft boxes that I paid 70 Australian dollars for, like 30 quid, 7 years ago. So your advice is good advice. If you're going to start something, just start it, and you'll work it out. Every single video you make, every single podcast you make, whatever it is, you'll learn and you'll improve. And you still learn. I made 1,000 videos, and I'm still, this is a big change for me, and I'm not finished yet. I know 2 camera, 3 camera setups. There's so many things that I could do to keep improving. It's just a bit of time. It's just a bit of money, but it's all kind of somewhere down the track in the future.
And if people want to head down a track to buy a new watch, Jody, where should they go?
Oh, thank you, Ricky. They should go to www.erebuswatches.com and check out 2 full ranges of watches. The Origins, which are in stock and available to ship immediately, and the Ascents. We're opening a 4-week pre-order period from tomorrow, the 20th of April, which is probably 2 days ago now, for 4 full weeks. at the lowest prices possible. We'll probably then, do a kind of halfway, and we're expecting to take stock of these in September. So we delivered all of the Origins 5 weeks early. We say September, but we're hopeful that we can deliver them a few weeks earlier than that.
Fantastic. And if you want to see what we're up to, check us out on Instagram. It's probably the best place. At Scottish Watches, our website is scottishwatches.co.uk, and that is where you can drop us an email. If you want to get in touch, give us your comments, criticism, questions, queries, anything at all, that email address is info@scottishwatches.co.uk. So, until probably the end of the year, if not the start of next year, Jody, we will let you get on your merry way. You've got a lot to do. You have some press pictures to send me that I can include in this show, that I can put in the show notes for Mizzy L.
Delighted. Yeah, I'll send you some photos.
Send me some photos, send me some renders, some pictures, some videos, anything at all, and I'll make sure that our guys get those on social media and our website at the same time. And that is it. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll catch you guys again soon.
Ricky, great to see you. Great to talk to you. And you keep eating those potatoes.